but I can see we have our panelists here and Christine as well. So guys, good luck, I guess. 25 minutes to wrap up 2 days discussion. So Christine,
Yes.
I'll leave it over to you to start things off.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you for this invitation. I think it's a very challenging one, but at the same time, we've been really listening very carefully to all the different panels and the different conclusions. And I think that we have today 4 speakers who are really knowledgeable about space in the past and will give a view of the future. This session is about what is going to happen to Europe in 20 years, space, of course, Europe space sector. And so I'm going to give the floor to those really knowledgeable people, as I said, are my speakers. But before I do that, I wanted to ask in the room, who is representing small and medium enterprises, startups, and new space? Can you raise your hand? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, not a lot, but I count on you to ask the good questions, right? Among others, of course, the traditional space can also bring their points. So we've seen that space is changing, that the barriers to access to space are going lower in the launches, but also in the cost of satellites. So I mean, there are some provisions that in 20 years, space will be generating a lot of money, you know, trillions if we hear and read the World Economic Forum, but that's a global projections. In reality, Europe is maybe not in that situation, and that's what we want to hear today. I will start with you, Frank. No, sorry, Niklas, I'm sorry. Niklas Ninas, you are a member of the European Parliament, and you have been vocal, I think, and really defending space during your mandate. So give us, you know, 2-3 maximum minutes of your opening remarks, you know, on your reflections for this future of space as you see it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think that the first point, one of the first sentences that I heard when I came is like, everybody's talking about security now. Everybody's talking about security and not so much anymore about sustainability. But to be honest, I think they are 2 parts of the same point. Sustainability and security, they all belong into the questions of safety. And this is something that we need to bring together for the future. When we look ahead in the future of Europe in 20 years, in space in 20 years in Europe, I believe it is vital that we focus on the security and safety aspect and make sure that Europe is championing this on both the defense, but also of the sustainability part, to make sure that this is in a sound hand and that we know it's just working. It cannot be that several armies are trying to defend and secure currently satellite infrastructure, but not the European ones because they're only focusing on the national one. That doesn't make any sense. So this is the first part where we need European leadership to make sure that the member states work together to protect from sustainability, from the space, whether there was been in the last debate, but also from the security part, our infrastructures. The second part is the question of how the agencies work together. And honestly, I think we have a huge part of work ahead of us if we want to confront the fact that the European agencies are not working as efficient and as well together as they should be. And if we want to continue and want to be vocal in the future, then they need to improve and we need to bring them better, closer, more aligned. And I even would call for, you know, the most well-known European program is the Erasmus program. Maybe we need an Erasmus program for our agencies as well to make sure that they know of each other, that they know the contact, and that they work well together. And the third part is then the industry. Of course, the industry, they are already used to working together. I think that this is something that we need to ease out. For that is why we need a European space law as quickly as possible so that the European companies can work together. But we must shift the view of what these companies do. They must be the provider of resources, of products, and not so much of services. And this is something where we need to shift around and where we need to, for the companies for themselves to understand that this is the major part of the upcoming competition. that if they want to sustain, not just in the European competition, but in the worldwide competition, this shift needs to happen as soon as possible. So these 3 points, industry, defense, and agencies, I think are the big parts that needs to change for us to champion space, because I believe we can. We have the brightest minds, we have great ideas, and we have powerful resources, but we need to make it possible for them to work together efficiently, and this can only be done on a European level.
Thank you very much, Niklas. I will come back on one point that you just mentioned now on the industry, but I will first give the floor to Franck Monteny, who is the Director General Research and Space at the Belgian Science Policy Office, Federal Science Policy. And you are also, of course, you have been working a lot at the presidency, and you're still working because it's not finished. It's still until the end of the week, the presidency of the Council. So the Belgians have been at the forefront, I would say, of this space discussions with the Space Council, with IRIS², with the space law, with the cybersecurity resilience. So Franck, the floor is yours. So what's your vision for the next 20 years for Europe in space?
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm not Madame Soleil, as we say in Belgium, so it's always a challenge to see what's the vision, but I think we should all work together to make sure that Europe is still a major player within 20 years in the global ecosystem, that it is considered as a major fully fledged partner by other international organizations in the field of space cooperation, and that European industry has a fair share of the global space market to which you are referring to. And at the same time, it would be good if we could manage to set or point at some new strategic domains that are developing. Having been said, it was said in the previous panel, we should not be modest. The last decades we have achieved with relatively modest investments to achieve considerable results in scientific, technological, and programmatic fields, making us an important player. Challenge is to be there, right? Because we are in a very transformative moment. To do so, we think it's very important to foster the competitivity of our space industry and to maintain our resilience. 2 points from the Belgian presidency. It's also in that context that we organized the Space Council, focusing on space as an actor for competitivity in Europe, but also on the competitiveness of the sector itself. I took well note of the message of industry that it's good to give guidelines, but that you should also translate tangible actions. And I think we are here at the moment which make that possible. We have a kind of a classic, an interesting timing with the next MMF that is under preparation, the elections, the post-elections at European level, the preparation of the ESA ministerials 25-28. So there was a lot of opportunities to make things happen. Some thoughts on that level, and it was said by my colleague, and I fully agree. Cooperation between the different institutional players in Europe is key. We should build on the existing strengths, avoid duplications, and learn from the past experience in a pragmatic and cooperative spirit. Belgium is saying that for years now. It remains a challenge, and I think consensus about the role of the main player is key. We should achieve a consensus among us who is doing what and who is responsible for what. And there is a large responsibility for the member states there, because there are the member states that are on the boards of the main institutional actors, being the Commission, being ESA, being EUMETSAT. So we should look to ourselves and work on that. We also should rethink the way we design and implement support programs, focusing more on the procurement of services. I think it's very important. ESA took already some initiatives in this sense. They have been named undoubtedly in the 2 days we are working at the Launcher Challenge, the DEOCAT Cargo Return Service. At the same time, public authorities should take up the role as anchor customers, being well aware that in Europe that's not that easy to have sufficient critical mass. But I think it's very important to offer, and it was said yesterday evening, to offer the companies a perspective on profitability, to make that shift. Another element, when we are designing and implementing support programs, we should be able to reduce the time to contract, because speed is very important at this moment. We should differentiate the way we work. We handle different projects, maintaining a required level of quality assurance. So that's a challenge for us. Another point, and I'm ending there and trying to end, is we should reflect together as stakeholders on how we can change our current working models and increase the investment, public-private investments. Cassini program was a very excellent example of success. We should try to work further on this matter. And in the same context, being said that, if we want to maintain our role on the global stage, we should also reflect on on public investment. Space is still relying on public investment. We should be serious on that. And then we come back to another issue that is, it's not easy at this moment since we have grand challenges before us. We have a geopolitical situation that is complex. And so in this context, it's clear that we should reflect on to develop a coherent vision on how we will assure convergence, call it building bridges, between the investments in security, defense-related space activities, and the more classic space activities. And as a last remark, the right framework conditions to foster competitiveness are very important. Standardization, space law, and finding the right equilibrium between regulation. Sometimes in Europe, we tend to over-regulate a bit and leaving enough space for our industry to be sufficiently agile. Thanks.
Very, very complete list of, recommendations. I mean, we will come back also to this. I just keep for the moment act faster. So, but with a procurement which is really guaranteeing the quality of the services and maybe aggregation of demands global. I mean, at European level, at first instance, to kick really newcomers and to develop the space. I mean, that's only the two ones that but you said much more, and I will come back on those points as well later. Thank you very much, Frank. So I will pass the floor now to Natalia Vicente, who is Vice President Public Affairs at the Global Satellite Operators Associations, that we thank you also to be supporting that conference. So Natalia, you are, representing satellite operators. So we are absolutely in the commercialization, I would say, of space. What is your vision then for the next 20 years for Europe? How would you see the satellite operators, European satellite operators in particular? What are they going to become, and what will they be in 20 years?
Thank you very much, Christine. And indeed, GSOA represents satellite operators and the full ecosystem of the satellite industry, what I think enriches also these conversations, and to look forward on what do we need as a region and as Europe to take the lead, let's say, on all the benefits that connectivity can bring from space. I think during the last few days, yesterday and today, we have been hearing certain recurrent words: innovation, collaboration, sustainability, investment. Clearly, these are objectives that we all have, or at least they are tools that we all consider that are necessary for an industry to flourish. I think that precisely when we talk about the innovation that's happening in space and the integration that is happening with the terrestrials, we enter into the collaboration. When we talk about the collaboration, we talk about the collaboration between the industry, but we talk about the collaboration with the regulators and the policymakers, and how to ensure that actually the regulation and the frameworks that we put in place support the industry, fostering the competitiveness, fostering the investment, fostering the collaboration, fostering the innovation. And so what I think is on the way forward, and indeed there's a lot of things that are coming, the use space law, also on connectivity, we've heard this morning about the white paper. There's clearly more and more different pieces that are also touching upon the space-based systems. It is important that we ensure that we don't duplicate efforts, that we don't duplicate and create extra burdens, and that we try to facilitate also this entrance for new SMEs, as you were asking, Christine, but also support the industry that is already established there, and give them also the possibility to continue providing all those services and innovating. And indeed, I think for Europe to be able to do this is also keeping in mind that part of a level playing field, that we always hear about. It is important that we as Europe, we also think about our needs, our industry needs, and how can we support them so that they can also provide the services for the European citizens, keeping that in mind that we need to think very much on what are the needs and what are the challenges. Sometimes in our cases, access to the connectivity, but we have heard also today that a lot of it is skills and usability. And so how can we implement the necessary tools and processes so those barriers and bridges are also, or those gaps are also bridged, no? And so I think, and I think it sounds always a little bit of the same, but having this flexible but is a framework that we can think but I'm now thinking at the word flexible and certainty, no? That balance in between both parts, so that we can continue investing and providing the services that the citizens in Europe need. And definitely, I think one of the things that will change the game is if we manage to bridge the digital divide, we start bridging many other divides. And if Europe is the first one on doing that, that would be a game changer. So indeed, let's take action now so that in 20 years we can meet again and say we've done it.
Okay, thank you very much, Natalia. So I keep regulation very important in order for guaranteeing a level playing field and trying to reach the, to bridge the digital divide at least, right? At last, right? We're discussing this in Europe. We're not talking just digital divide globally. We're talking it still in Europe. And thank you very much. And I will give the floor very quickly to Charles because I see the clock is ticking so quickly. I'm sorry, Charles, you are the policy, officer. I'm sorry, and I'm just looking for your title. But everybody knows you. Everybody knows you. So you are the major person working inside Eurospace. You're a policy manager. And Charles, Eurospace, is well known, and you are representing so many manufacturing industries, so many SMEs and startups in space. So your voice is extremely important. So let us have your view, for the next 20 years, what needs to be done? What, is the space industry in danger? And if it's the case, what's your vision and how do you see the future?
Thank you very much, Christine. And indeed, I will be quite quick because a lot of what I will say, we've heard them over the past 2 days. So indeed, we are in danger. And if we want to be able to project ourselves in the next 20 years, we have to see where we are now. And it's a concern for the European space industry, but it's also a concern for institutions, because at the end, at numerous occasions, EU institutions, the Council, have recognized that space is indispensable for autonomous decision-making, that space technology, data, and services are key for European societies and economies. And who's delivering those infrastructures and services? At the end, it's the industry. And we are facing many challenges. We've heard about the issue of fragmentation of the demand of the offer, the low volume of the European institutional markets compared to our competitors, the rapid disappearance of significant market shares that are today totally disrupted by SpaceX, now in the satellite industry, but before in the launcher industry. And also a constant decrease of industry profitability. And so if we draw a parallel with the defense sector, the current geopolitical context has created a shock that at the end, the European institution decided to create a European defense industrial strategy. And so far for space, the shock has not been able to reach the minds of our political makers. And this is key that we continuously alert of the issues the European space industry is facing, and that EU institutions devised a European industrial strategy for space that shall aim at a few points at tackling the issue of the fragmentation of the demand of the offer with large world-class space programs at European level. We should raise also our ambitions on research and development, and consider research and development at European level and no longer at national level with scattered budget. We should also, as Niklas rightly said, consider the complementarity between space and defense. Reinforce the demand, notably with the establishment of long-term purchases to give visibility to industry. We should also help Europe keep a level playing field with other partners, notably by promoting standards, sustainability, for example, and be a pioneer leader on that. And finally, also related to governance, we need a better coordination of the efforts among European institutional actors, so member states, ESA, the European Commission.
Very good. So it's a full list and it echoes actually what the other panelists have been saying. So thank you very much for bringing this in perspective. So our space industry is in danger, but at the same time we need to have independent and sovereign Europe. This work between space and defense seems to be really important to work hand in hand and to use the capabilities of the defense capabilities to also reinforce the space and the space industry sector. Now, I know that I don't have a lot of time, but I want to give you the floor. Is there a burning question that, yes, you have? Please tell me what you have in mind. So I have two questions, in fact. Yes, maybe. I don't want my microphone. It's okay? Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. I was wondering what you meant by this. Many speakers today mentioned the Copernicus program, and of course we all know the infrastructure element part of it that the industry is providing, but a large part of it is also coming from services, commercial data being provided by industry. So I was wondering what you meant by we should not provide services.
No, this is a misunderstanding. I don't mean the services, the in-space services, but I'm talking about what do industries at the moment offer mainly to institutional customers? It's services. It's basically working hours, industries working for hours in order to fulfill certain things. Whereas what we need for the future is products off the shelf. Ready-to-go products that are off the shelf, because then we come also to the question when it comes to defense. I was talking to a general, and he talked to me about, I want to understand what is going on up there, and if anybody's attacking our satellites. I said, okay, let's say we build up all this infrastructure, and now you know. What are you going to do? You're going to wait for 2 years until you can launch something because there's no launcher? Are you going to wait another 2 years because you need to build up some satellites, and then maybe they take some longer time because they are not working to sell you a finished product, but to sell you more hours? And so this is what I'm talking about. Where we need to go with the industry itself is to transfer over to the fact that we need off-the-shelf production. That we need to have a market that is much faster, much more reactive, that also, of course, enables the institutional actors and the customers not to say, I want exactly this and that product, but off the shelf also means not tailored. But this is something where I think we will find a good common middle ground in the direction that we need to go. For the in-orbit services, you're absolutely right. I'm not confronting that. That should definitely continue to be done.
Okay. Okay, fine. Any other question? Yes, at the end of the room. Kevin.
Thank you. Kevin Matters, King's College London. It's a question particularly for Niklas Ninas, but I think for everyone in this room. There was a word used, I think it was Johan Benach who used the word showcasing in the last panel. And what he really meant by it was to get the message out to people, ordinary citizens, not us, but the people out there. Now, if we're talking about strength for the future, if we're talking about leadership for the future, if we're talking about the future full stop, where does public communication, where does more broadly international public communication fit into our plans, but also our vision of ourselves and what our role is? And that's why I direct my question principally at Niklas as a representative, perhaps not for so much longer now, unfortunately, Niklas, but certainly, you know what I mean, the role of the European Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we hope to welcome you back at any time. But in any case, so first of all, I think for your question, one question that we still have to ask is, who is we? Right? Because I think that, we all here are the nice space community, but in fact, it's still not coordinated in like, let's all do this and that. Maybe we can increase that in a certain way. And what I personally did, for example, I tried to tackle exactly this problem. I think that we need more education about space in regular society, not so much within politicians, not so much within space geeks, but really just everywhere. I produced a children's book in which I explained the basics of European space. I produced socks, I produced a podcast, all of this stuff to, on a very low level, interest people on why this is important. We were even thinking about a book to showcase why it's important and what is happening out there. And so this is something I think we must do much more. And also to make sure that people understand space is much more than just cool astronauts who do cool stuff, which is like a fever dream of every child, but that it's everyday's life. And this is something where we, and now we again have to define who we is, need to do much more to make sure this public relation really works, that people understand what is happening. I think it's very important.
Yeah, okay, very good. Thank you very much, Kevin, for that question, because this is indeed a very important element. Maybe we should, simply have equipment powered by space, somewhere in our cars, in our, wherever we use space. We are at the end of our panel, and I'm really sorry because there's so many things that you said that would be very useful to develop. But I would like you to give us one main recommendations you could do to ensure that European space in 20 years will remain strong or will be stronger than today and will survive to global competition, which is always good, but we need to, of course, keep our space knowledge and space engineers here to support our developments. Niklas, one recommendations?
I will be very broad, very, very broad, and I'll
Yes.
say stay optimistic and
Yes.
be optimistic of what we have to offer and what we can do. Let's put this in the focus.
Okay, very good. We have IRIS² and the space law in the pipeline, which is already very good. So that's a good sign. Frank, one recommendation?
Well, it's always a challenge to pick one,
Yes.
but I'll be in line with what my minister has been saying previously. On a short notice, we should work to find links between security investments, defense investments, and public investments in space.
Yeah. Very good. Natalia?
Just to say that before, other of the words that I didn't say, but we mentioned a lot during these days was sustainability and investment. Those are also key ones. But indeed, I think the most important thing for Europe to succeed is to do teamwork. Industry, regulators, policymakers, all together with their brains together and seeing what are the next steps and how to do them.
Yeah, remember what Mr. Grudler said, let's work as Europeans, right? That's very, very important. Sean?
Yeah, I fully agree with my colleagues, and I would add be excellent in what we do best in order to differentiate ourselves from the others.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for having kept with us, also at a very late moment in their Space Forum. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your presence, and a big applause to our speakers. Thank you.